This is a long one. This is Jacob 5. It's a message from the Book of Mormon. And it's Jacob quoting Zenos' relative to the allegory of the tame and wild olive trees. They are a likeness of Israel and the Gentiles. The scattering and gathering of Israel are prefigured. Allusions are made to the Nephites and the Lamanites and all the house of Israel. Gentiles shall be grafted into Israel. Eventually the vineyard shall be burned. Jacob 5. Behold, my brethren, do ye not remember to have read the words of the prophet Zenos, which he spake unto the house of Israel, saying, Hearken, O ye house of Israel, and hear the words of me, a prophet of the Lord. For behold, thus saith the Lord, I will liken thee, O house of Israel, like unto a tame olive tree, which is a man took, nourished it in his vineyard, and it grew, waxed old, and began to decay. And it came to pass that the master of the vineyard went forth, and he saw that the olive tree began to decay, and he said, I'll prune it, dig about it, nourish it, that perhaps it may shoot forth young tender branches, and it perish not. And it came to pass that he pruned it, digged about it, and nourished it according to his word. And it came to pass that after the many days it began to put forth somewhat a little young tender branches, but behold, the main top thereof began to perish. And it came to pass that the master of the vineyard saw it, and he said to his servant, It grieveth me that I should lose this tree. Wherefore go and pluck the branches from a wild olive tree, and bring them hither unto me, and we will pluck off those main branches which are beginning to wither away. We'll cast them into the fire, that they may be burned. And behold, saith the Lord of the vineyard, I take away many of these young and tender branches, and I will graft them whatsoever I will. And it mattereth not that if it so be that the root of this tree will perish, I may preserve the fruit thereof unto myself. Wherefore I will take these young and tender branches, and I will graft them whithersoever I will. Take the branches of the wild olive tree, and graft them instead thereof. And these which I plucked off, cast them into the fire, and burn them, that they may not cumber the ground of my vineyard. And it came to pass that the servant of the Lord of the vineyard did according to the word of the Lord of the vineyard, and grafted in the branches of the wild olive tree. And the Lord of the vineyard caused that it should be digged about and pruned and nourished, saying unto his servant, It grieveth me that I should lose this tree. Perhaps I might preserve the roots thereof, that they perish not, and that I might preserve them unto myself. I have done this thing. Wherefore go thy way, watch the tree, nourish it according to my words. And these will I place in the nethermost part of the vineyard, whithersoever I will, and it mattereth not to thee. And I doubt that I may preserve unto myself the natural branches of the tree, and also that I may lay up the fruit thereof against the season unto myself, for it grieveth me that I should lose this tree and the fruit thereof. Excuse me. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard went his way, and hid the natural branches of the tame olive tree in the nethermost parts of the vineyard, some in one and some in another, according to his will and pleasure. And it came to pass that a long time passed, and the Lord of the vineyard said to his servant, Come, let us go down to the vineyard, that we may labor in the vineyard. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard and also the servant went down into the vineyard to labor. And it came to pass that the servant said unto his master, Behold, look here, behold, look at the tree. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard looked and beheld the tree, in which the wild olive branches had been grafted. And it had begun to spring forth, and begun to bear good fruit, and the fruit was like unto the natural fruit. And he said unto the servant, Behold, the branches of the wild tree have taken hold of the moisture of the root thereof, and the root thereof has brought forth much strength, and because of the much strength of the root, therefore the wild branches have brought forth tame fruit. Now, if we have not grafted in these branches, and the tree thereof would have perished. And now behold, I lay up much fruit, which the tree thereof has brought forth, and the fruit thereof I shall lay up myself against the season unto my own self. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, Come, let us go to the nethermost part of the vineyard, and behold its natural branches, and the tree have not brought forth much fruit, also that I may lay up of the fruit thereof against the season unto my own self. And it came to pass that they went forth whither the master had hid the branches of the tree. And he said unto the servant, Behold these, and behold the first fruit, that it brought forth much fruit. And he beheld also that it was good. And he said to the servant, Take of the fruit thereof, and lay it up against the season, that I may preserve it unto my own self. For behold, he said, This long time have I nourished it, and it hath brought forth much fruit. And it came to pass, excuse me, came to pass that the servant said to his master, How comest thou hither to plant this tree and this branch of this tree? For behold, it was in the poorest spot in all the land of the vineyard. And the Lord of the vineyard said to him, Counsel me not. I knew that it was the poorest spot of the ground. Therefore I said unto thee, I have nourished it this long time, and thou beholdest that it hath brought forth much fruit. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto his servant, Look hither. Behold, I planted another branch of the tree also, and thou knowest that this spot of the ground was poorer than the first. But behold the tree, I have nourished it in this long time, and has brought forth much fruit. Therefore gather it and lay it up against the season, that I may preserve it unto my own self. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said again unto his servant, Look hither, and behold this another branch also which I planted, and behold, I have nourished it, and it hath also brought forth fruit. And he said to the servant, Look hither, and behold the last. Behold, this I have planted in the good spot of the ground, and I have nourished it this long time, and only the part of the tree which brought forth tame fruit, and the other part of the tree has brought forth wild fruit. Behold, I have nourished this tree like the others. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, Pluck off the branches that have not brought forth good fruit, and cast them into the fire. But behold, the servant said unto him, Let's prune it, and dig about it, and nourish it a little longer, that perhaps maybe it may bring forth good fruit unto thee, that thou can layest up against the season. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard and the servant of the Lord of the vineyard did nourish all of the fruit of the vineyard. And it came to pass that the long time had passed away, and the Lord of the vineyard said to his servant, Come, let us go down to the vineyard, that we may labor again in the vineyard. For behold, the time draweth near, that the end soon cometh, wherefore I must lay up fruit against the season unto my own self. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard and the servant of the vineyard went down to the vineyard, and they came to the tree, whose natural branches were broken off, and the wild branches were grafted in. And behold, all sorts of fruits did cumber the tree. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard did taste of the fruit, every sort according to its number. And the Lord of the vineyard said, Behold, this long time we have nourished this tree, and I have laid up to myself against the season much fruit. But behold, this time it hath brought forth much fruit, and there is none of it which is good. And behold, there are all kinds of bad fruit, and it profiteth me nothing, notwithstanding all of our labor, and it grieveth me that I should lose this tree. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, What shall we do unto the tree, that I may preserve again good fruit thereof unto my own self? And the servant said to his master, Behold, because thou didst graft in the branches of the wild olive tree, they have nourished the roots. They are alive, and they have not perished. Wherefore thou beholdest that they are yet good. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said to the servant, The tree profiteth me nothing, the roots thereof profit me nothing, so long as it shall bring forth evil fruit. Nevertheless, I know that the roots are good, and for my own purpose I preserve them, and because of their much strength they have hitherto brought forth from the wild branches good fruit. But behold, the wild branches have grown, and have overrun the roots thereof. Because of the wild branches have overcome the roots thereof, it has brought forth much evil fruit. And because it has brought forth so much evil fruit, that thou beholdest that it begins to perish, and it will soon become ripened, that it may cast into the fire, except we do something to cause for it to preserve it. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said unto his servant, Let's go down to the nethermost parts of the vineyard, and behold, if the natural branches have also brought forth evil fruit, And it came to pass that they went down into the nethermost part of the vineyard, and it came to pass that they beheld that the fruit of the natural branches had become corrupt also, and the fruit and the first and second and also the last, they had all become corrupt. And the wild fruit of the last had overcome part of the tree which brought forth good fruit, even the branch had withered away and died. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard wept and said to his servant, What could I have done more for this vineyard? Behold, I know that all the fruit of this vineyard, save it were these, had become corrupt. And now these, which also have once brought forth good fruit, have also become corrupted. And now all the trees of my vineyard are good for nothing, save to be hewn into the fire. And behold, this last, whose branch had withered away, I plant in a good spot of ground, yea, even that which was choice unto me above all other parts of the land of my vineyard. And thou beholdest that I also cut down that which was cumbered, this spot of ground, that I might plant this tree instead thereof. And thou beheldest that the part thereof of the brought forth good fruit, and part thereof brought forth wild fruit. And because I plucked not the branches thereof, and cast them into the fire, behold, they have overcome the good branch, and it hath withered away. And now, behold, notwithstanding all the care which we have taken of my vineyard, the trees thereof have become corrupted, and they bring forth no good fruit. And these I had hoped to preserve, to have laid up fruit thereof against the season unto my own self. But behold, they have become like unto the wild olive tree, and they are no worth, but to be hewn down, cast into the fire. And it grieveth me that I should lose them. But what could I have done more in my vineyard? Have I slackened my hand that I have not nourished it? Nay, I have nourished it. I digged about it, pruned it, dunged it, and I have stretched forth my hand almost all day long. At the end draweth nigh, and it grieveth me that I should hew down all the trees of my vineyard, and cast them into the fire, which they should be burned. Who is it that has corrupted my vineyard? And it came to pass that the servant said to his master, Is it not the loftiness of the vineyard? Have not the branches thereof overcome the roots which are good? And because the branches have overcome the roots thereof, behold, they grew faster than the strength of the roots, taking strength unto themselves. Behold, I say, is this not the cause that the trees of the vineyard have become corrupted? And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said to the servant, Let's go down, hew down the trees of the vineyard, cast them into the fire, and they shall not cumber the ground of my vineyard, for I have done all. What could I have done more for the vineyard? But behold, the servant said unto the Lord of the vineyard, Spare it a little longer. And the Lord said, Yeah, I'll spare it a little longer, for it grieveth me that I should lose the trees of my vineyard. Wherefore let us take of the branches of these which I have planted in the nethermost part of the vineyard, and let us graft them into the tree from whence they came. And let us pluck the tree of those branches whose fruit is bitter, and graft it in the natural branches thereof instead thereof. And this will I do, that the tree may not perish, and perhaps I may preserve it unto myself the roots thereof for my own purpose. And behold, the roots of the natural branches of the tree which I planted wheresoever I would are yet alive. Wherefore that my own preserve them for my own purpose, I will take the branches of this tree, graft them into them. I will graft into another unto them the branches of their mother tree, that I may preserve the roots also unto my own self, that when they shall be sufficiently strong, perhaps they may bring good fruit unto me, that I may yet have glory in the fruit of my vineyard. And it came to pass that they took from the natural tree which had become wild, grafted it into the natural trees which had also become wild, and they took the natural trees which had become wild and grafted into their mother tree. And the Lord of the vineyard said to the servant, Pluck not the wild branches from the trees, save it be for those which are most bitter. And in them ye shall graft according to that which I have said. And we will nourish again the trees of the vineyard, and we will trim up the branches thereof, and we will pluck from the trees those branches which are ripened, that they must perish, and cast them into the fire. And I do this, that perhaps the roots thereof may take strength because of their goodness, and because of the changes of their branches, that they good may overcome the evil. And because I have preserved the natural branches and the roots thereof, and that I have grafted in the natural branches again into their mother tree, and have preserved the roots of the mother tree, that perhaps the tree of the vineyard may bring forth again good fruit, and that I may have joy again in the fruit of my vineyard, and perhaps that I may rejoice exceedingly that I have preserved the roots and branches of the first fruit. Wherefore, go to and call the servants, that we may labor diligently with our might in the vineyard, that we might prepare the way, that I might bring forth again the natural fruit, which natural fruit is good and most precious above all other fruit. Wherefore, let us go to and labor with our might this last time. For behold, the end draweth nigh, and this is the last time I shall prune my vineyard. Graft in the branches, begin at the last, that they may be the first, and that the first may be the last, and dig out above the trees, both old and young, the first and the last and the first, that all may be nourished once again for the last time. Wherefore dig about them, and prune them, and dung them one more for the last time, for the end draweth nigh. And if it be so that these last grafts shall grow and bring forth a natural fruit, then ye shall prepare the way for them, and they shall begin to grow. Ye shall clear the branches which bring forth bitter fruit, according to the strength of the good and the size thereof, and ye shall not clear away the bad, therefore all at once, lest the roots thereof should not be strong for the graft, and the graft thereof shall perish, and I lose the trees of the vineyard. For agree with me that I should lose the trees of my vineyard. Wherefore ye shall clear away the bad, according as the good shall grow, that the root and the top may be equal in strength, until the good shall overcome the bad, and the bad be hewn down and cast into the fire, that they cumber not the ground of my vineyard. And thus I will sweep away the bad out of my vineyard. And the branches of the natural tree I will graft in again to the natural tree, and the branches of the natural tree I will graft into the natural branches of the tree, and thus I will bring them together, and they shall bring forth natural fruit, and they shall be one. And the bad shall be cast away, yea, even out of the land of my vineyard. For behold, only this once will I prune my vineyard. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard said to his servant, and the servant went and did as the Lord commanded, and he brought other servants, and they were few. And the Lord of the vineyard said to them, Go and labor in the vineyard with your might. For behold, this is the last time that I shall nourish my vineyard, for the end is nigh, and the season speedily cometh, that if ye labor with your might, that ye shall have joy in the fruit which I shall lay up unto myself against the time which will soon come. And it came to pass that the servants did go and labor with their might, and the Lord of the vineyard labored also with them, and they did obey the commandments of the Lord of the vineyard in all things. And there began to be natural fruit again in the vineyard, and the natural branches began to grow and thrive exceedingly, and the wild branches began to be plucked away and cast off, and they did keep the root and the top thereof equal, according to the strength thereof. And thus they labored with the diligence according to the commandments of the Lord of the vineyard, even until the bad had been cast away out of the vineyard, and the Lord had preserved unto himself trees that had become again natural fruit, and they became like unto one body, and the fruits were equal. And the Lord of the vineyard had preserved unto him the most natural fruit, which was most precious unto him from the beginning. And it came to pass that when the Lord of the vineyard saw that his fruit was good, and his vineyard was no more corrupt, he called upon his servants and said to them, Behold, this is the last time I have nourished my vineyard, and thou beholdest that I have done according to my will, and that I have preserved the natural fruit, and that it be good. And even like as it was in the beginning, thou blessed art thou, for thou hast been diligent in laboring with me in my vineyard, and have kept the commandments, and have brought unto me again this natural fruit, that my vineyard is no more corrupted, and the bad is cast away. Behold, ye shall have joy with me because of the fruit of my vineyard. For behold, for a long time will I lay up fruit of my vineyard unto my own self against the season, which speedily cometh. And for the last time I have nourished my vineyard, and pruned it, and dug about it, and dunged it, wherefore I will lay up to my own self the fruit for a long time, according to that which I have spoken. And when the time cometh that the evil fruit shall come into my vineyard, then I will cause the good and the bad to be gathered, and the good I will preserve unto myself, and the bad will be cast away into its own place. And then cometh the season and the end, and my vineyard I will cause to be burned with fire.